I've said a million times is an exaggeration, but I've said countless times, I do not do business in any way, manner, etc., with retard monkeys, snowflakes, or alpha males on the internet through social media, link fuck, face fuck, and tweet fuck, and what's fuck, and all the rest of them, which I don't even have those. So don't send me, I couldn't give a fuck less if you have a box that turns shit into gold. I'm not interested. I only do business with meatheads that I personally trained in this motherfucking room. I don't know how many fucking times I have to say it. Number two, I don't really appreciate or not appreciate your comments because I don't give a fuck what you say. I mean, I don't. I find it amusing, and it adds a little humor to the seminar when you tell me that the guy in the third row with a bald head shines too much and it fucks up the view, which I believe is you. And it's just like we got a little humor just now, right? And it's funny. Or sometimes the thing that I don't like about social media is because you can use a fictitious name and you don't really know. And these guys got a lot of balls they don't have to put their name out, but they got something to say about Muslims, Indians, Jews, everybody under the sun. Chinese, they don't really distinguish the Chinese from the Koreans to the Vietnamese, but I mean, normally it's just Chinese. And everybody's got a smart-ass remark to make. And I always picture these guys, I assume they're mostly guys. I could be wrong. But these guys, weighing 85 pounds with a 1 centimeter dick, and I mean, the epitome of a snowflake, cunt. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But they've certainly got big mouths. It's unbelievable. Where I come from, most of these kids wouldn't have got past the 4th or 5th grade. They'd be dead. I do enjoy the kids watching my YouTube, and you register for my YouTube. That's great. That's all great. But I'm not selling anything. So, I mean, and I only just recently found out what it meant when you're on somebody's feed. I didn't know what that meant. And I said, it doesn't mean shit to me, but anyway, I now know what that means. And for those of you that said that, referred to my comment, I'm talking about YouTube now, referred to my comment about the late Senator McCain, and that he was involved in the big bank fraud or the savings and loan fraud in the 80s, and he did this and he did that. May or may not be true. I don't give a shit. But I'd like to see you spend 6 years in a fucking prison camp, being tortured every day. Most of you cunts on YouTube couldn't last 5 hours. And he wouldn't allow them to release him out of sequence for his men. So he stayed. Now, for those of you that made sarcastic remarks about the late Senator McCain, if any of you have been in a prison camp, please tell me on YouTube. But I know none of you have. So it's easy to flap your fucking mouth. So unlike you, he was a real man instead of a cunt, like almost every single person that watches me on YouTube. And I didn't agree with him bad-mouthing the president, but I don't agree with everything President Trump says myself. And the third thing I want to just make clear, this is the penultimate day, as they say here, the second to the last day of the seminar, and like sex, it all comes at the end, and we will be covering the 3 moving parts later today. We will also be, for those of you that signed up, we'll be boxing a little, which I'm looking forward to see how you guys do. But the YouTubers have got comments about that. that they're in most bigger snowflakes than you, but they have reversed the formula saying that you're obviously bigger snowflakes than them. But see, the fact is you're here and they're not. And so they appear to think that it's going to be like girls fighting and scratching eyes out or something like that. But which I rather doubt. Okay, last night you saw Steve Ballmer, right? What are the comments about Steve?
He was energetic and passionate about what he did.
Well, you could say that about everybody you saw a movie on, right? Herr Professor Doctor, success leaves clues, right? You don't have to spreadsheet. Well, I say that. I pray that you don't have to spreadsheet that. What else about Steve?
He had the luck to start in a startup business and go through everything from scratch. So from 30 people to 100,000 people.
And he was a salesman. And he really didn't understand many of the intricacies of some of the products Microsoft came out with. And these guys don't want to be a one-trick pony. They want to be a 2 or 3-trick pony. And they compare themselves to each other, whether they've come up with a new derivative of what they started with. And as he said before he spoke at Oxford, he realized this was going to be on YouTube forevermore. And so he was nervous. Of course, so was I, for that matter, but a little nervous. But he likes to use swear words, and I believe he didn't use one in that talk. When I was at Oxford, I said fuck twice. And then I turned to the kid and I says, that's probably not politically correct. And he said, well, you already said it, Mr. Peña, so. And I called a couple of the girls cutie pie, which we have no lawsuits about. I didn't touch anybody. What else about Steve?
His goals for Microsoft transcended his lifetime.
Yeah, and remember when Ted Turner came up with the idea, he's not the only one who came up with the idea, to set goals that transcend your lifetime, as was suggested by his father. And again, my way of saying that, when you change the lives of 1 billion people, it will transcend you. And Zuckerberg's the most recent. But I mean, the guy that invented the car, actually the assembly line, Henry Ford the first, who was the first to come up with that, and that assembly line idea and the automobile idea has transcended his lifetime. And I said, I believe, and part of my global warming ranting and raving, the first car ever was an electric car in 1830 or 1840, something like that. Then 5 or 10 years later, the petroleum combustion car came about. And don't you think if we really wanted electric cars, after 150 years, we could have them? Of course, we have them now, partially, in my opinion, because Elon Musk has stuck the foot up the ass of the automotive industry with his electric cars. If Elon hadn't done what he did, we wouldn't have made as much progress in the last 10 years. Now everybody and his dog has got electric cars, or the hybrids, or whatever they're called. And some of the car manufacturers, like Volvo, is going to total that in the next 5 or 10 years. But what if Elon hadn't done that? So, as I've beat my chest the last few days, if we really wanted to conserve energy, we could. Now, one of the other things that I rant and rave about on my global warming talk is I learned many years ago that the sun produces 10 to 15,000 times more energy than we need per square meter on the Earth. And I think I said that the higher you are, the less energy, the lower you are, the more. 10 to 15,000 times more energy than we need on the planet per square meter. With all the engineers and all the etc., one would think that we should be able to transform that into usable energy, and solar and that kind of thing is moving in that way. So, you know my opinion, as long as certain countries on the planet have trillions of barrels in hydrocarbons, we're not going to be switching anytime soon. What else about Steve?
I think if you want to be successful, you need to go for some dark years.
Dark years. Yeah, that's one way of putting it. Like the last 7 or 8 years, I'm an overnight success, which I find amusing. The success, there's ups and downs. And as long as your quantum leaf war plan, which we're going to talk about today, is going in that direction, you're going to have dips. And the dips are when you call Kim and say that it's an emergency, you need to talk to me. And I don't take the call. I've only had one emergency last year. And I have 100 of you. And I had 50 calls. Because it's not an emergency. You just think it's an emergency because it's the first time it's ever happened to you. And when your chairman sticks you up at the close and wants 40% at the close, or he's walking out, and then your little 1 centimeter penis sucks back into the cavity, kind of like where you are now. If you want to know what dire straits are, if he hasn't already told you his sad story, it's not so sad because just coincidentally I was part of it 4 or 5 years ago, as life would have it. And I walked away. And when I tell you to walk away, you fucking just walk away. I don't care if you're leaving your baby, your mother, and $100 million cash, non-traceable bills. When I tell you to fucking walk away, just walk away. And I walked away, and I told my mentee to walk away. And he's in there in the trenches fighting it out still. And to his credit, really. But that's another story. We don't want to give too many details on YouTube. Anything else about Steve?
He emphasized talent, finding the right people.
Jack Welch and a number of the guys say the same thing. You want to be not the smartest guy in the room. I have a lot of difficulty with that because I normally am the smartest guy in the room, no matter how smart everybody is. But you want to surround yourself with talent. And the reason why most of the kids don't surround themselves with real super talent is because they're insecure that these people, these men and or women will extricate you. And in some times they do extricate you. But as long as you've set it up properly, you're going to be extricated with a bunch of money. A bunch of money. But I mean, you can't have too much talent. You can't, and that doesn't mean a room of 500 PhD scientists, computer scientists, and engineers. I often wonder, what do 500 of those guys do? Siemens used to have 650, 700 in their laboratory, running around with white coats. I often wonder, not just them, but I mean, a lot of the big companies have huge amounts of scientist types. And I don't know, Tesla seemed to get a lot done by himself. Tom Edison seemed to get a lot done by himself. A bunch of guys, Madame Curie seemed to get a lot done by herself. And now we have rooms of 300, 500, 5,000 mad scientists running around in their laboratories, as they say, or their lab coats, their white lab coats. Anything else about Steve? What was the other thing you saw?
Modern education.
Okay, takeaways. Pass in your homework, please. Takeaways. And we're just going to go over the goals. I haven't forgotten that, okay? Takeaways.
If you measure political correctness is the only thing that gets accomplished.
If you measure it.
to continually fall down a slippery slope of never being able to please anybody?
Well, I've been pretty much in that on that slippery slope for a long, long time. When you think about why the dean of the school would say, when asked, when I'm getting the alumni award of the century, that what has changed with Mr. Peña, the only thing that's changed with Danny is his accomplishments caught up with his big fucking mouth. I mean, that speaks volumes. Especially since I was a donor to the university of, at that time, a significant amount of money. So I pissed a lot of people off at the school. And they just picked the top 50 alumni since the school opened up, 25 years later. I wasn't even in the top 50, which is not possible. There are not 50 people at that fucking school that have accomplished more than I have. In fact, I don't believe there's even one. But because of the political incorrectness that I've demonstrated since 1991 when I got the award last time, not even in the top 50. I hope you're listening, Doctor, you know who. But that's what happens, and that's what your parents are worried about because they want to protect you. They don't want people to say bad things about you. When they write bad things about you, your mom, it hurts her. Well, you've never done anything worth a shit, so nobody's written anything about you. Well, no, you may be the exception to that rule in this room. And my parents never interfered with that. The good news is my parents never interfered with me growing up other than strictness. The bad news is they didn't press education. And as I said, the only goal my dad had for me was to keep me alive till I reached the age of reason. And when I got arrested in 1977, the last time I've been arrested, which I was 31 and a half, my father had assumed that I still had not reached the age of reason at 31. But I did soon thereafter. And I was already successful, had made quite a bit of money, and by regular standards, I had made a lot of money. But I was still crazy. So the pundits. Anything else about that? Okay. Pardon? Yes, it is. Oh, I mean, the you know, like I told you yesterday, when I read all these things, GDP, job created, consumer confidence at a 17-year low, women's unemployment 65-year low, African American, Hispanic, and Asian American unemployment lowest ever. But 90% of the press, they've got how many words, I didn't print it out, how many words were printed positively about the Trump administration, and it's like 1 to 100. These stats are 10 out of 100. So 90 news articles have been negative, and nobody's even talked about that. But a lot of the, like in Chicago, they don't talk about the shootings every weekend where people are dying. And the political correctness, and they're pulling everything out of the cellar, so to speak, to make sure that the recognition he doesn't get. But for the military, I mean, they haven't been happier in many, many years. Okay, YouTube, thank you very much.